Thank you for watching Colorado and Company. It has been an economic storm for millions of Americans this past couple of years, yet some recent economic reports have given a positive trend for many. For those who continue to deal with personal financial milestones, many have chosen bankruptcy as the only alternative. But filing for bankruptcy is not the worst decision one can make. In fact, it could create a positive future for many people. Denver bankruptcy attorney Kevin Heupel continues a special series with us here to shed new light on the results of bankruptcy. And we also invite your own questions, and we might even invite you to come on the show to discuss bankruptcy options with Kevin. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, always nice to see you. As I mentioned, we invite the viewers to send in their questions, and maybe we'll have a round-robin discussion here on the show. But before we get to the questions that have already been sent in, let's talk about your background and why you decided to get into bankruptcy law.
Okay. Well, when I started my legal career, I was actually an assistant attorney general for the state of Colorado. So I was one of those law and order guys. And prior to becoming a lawyer, I was a corporate accountant. So when I started my own firm, I was kind of tired of litigating, wanted to use more of my background. Bankruptcy was a good fit, involves a lot of number crunching. And the nice thing is we can plan it out, get people the result they want. Whereas when we're litigating, we never know what we're going to get because the decision's with the judge. And so to me, it feels like we get people in a good place, and that's what I like about it.
You do. We've been getting great feedback. You've helped many of our Colorado and Company viewers. But bankruptcy has a stigma. What's the reality today with this up and down financial world?
When a lot of my clients come in, they always want to tell me how they got into it, and they always start off by saying, I'm not like your other clients. And I think what they think is that the typical bankruptcy client is somebody who went out, got a lot of credit cards, had exotic trips, bought expensive furniture, bought expensive clothes, and got out of control. The reality is most people who file had a lifestyle they were maintaining. Their income dropped, they lost a job, they got cut, all that, and they weren't able to maintain the lifestyle anymore, so they used debt to maintain it, and then once the income came back, or if it doesn't come back, they find themselves not able to pay the debt back. And that's really the common path towards it, despite what people think.
Yeah, it's scary. What are some of the warning signs people should be looking for when they should start considering bankruptcy?
The easiest one is if your unsecured debt, like credit cards, medical bills, is more than a third of your annual income, you're a bankruptcy candidate. If you're paying your credit card, but then having to use it to buy groceries and gas, you're looking at bankruptcy. What I tell my clients, if you're on the fence, pay everything in cash for a month. Pay the credit cards last, and see if you even have money left over to pay them. If you don't have enough money to pay all of them, you're looking at bankruptcy.
That's scary. All right, so we did receive some questions from viewers, and again, we want to encourage you also to email us your questions, coloradoandco@9news.com, 303-955-7570. Now, our first question says, can a person keep their home with any bankruptcy? If so, what is the criteria?
Absolutely. Whether you're filing Chapter 7 or 13, you can keep your home. The criteria really is how much equity do you have in the home. If you're under 60 years old, you're allowed to have up to $60,000 of equity. If you're over 60, that number increases to $90,000.
Okay.
In this market, people are not losing their homes. Very few have equity, if any.
All right. Our next question, does filing for bankruptcy stop the foreclosure process?
It does. It automatically stops it for 60 days. If you look at filing a Chapter 13 where you can take the arrearages of your mortgage payments that led to the foreclosure, it can stay it indefinitely. It's a good way to save the home.
Again, these are questions coming from actual viewers. These are concerns. So we want to encourage you also to email us your questions. And next time Kevin's on the show, we'll actually have a chance to ask your question or call him at 303-955-7570. The next one from a viewer, I was denied the mitigation program with my home loan. Is bankruptcy the next step?
Maybe. It really depends if they have a second mortgage. If you have a first mortgage, you lose the home in foreclosure. Bank takes the home, walks away. But if you have a second mortgage, it's that second mortgage that pursues collection against you for the deficiency. So without having more information, I'm not sure if they would be, but they can certainly give me a call and I can determine whether they should or not.
Yeah, and it's definitely a thorough consultation, the first sit-down meeting with you, which is wonderful. He definitely takes time. 303-955-7570. Another question from a viewer, if I file bankruptcy, do I need to let the IRS know, or will they be notified anyway?
That's kind of a loaded one. I'm not sure what the concern there is, but if you owe debt, if you owe taxes to the IRS, yes, they will be notified. And tax debt older than 3 years will be discharged. So if you have old tax debt, you would want the IRS to know. If you're filing a Chapter 13, the IRS is automatically notified of all filings. So that, again, I'd want to know more what their concern is with the IRS. The IRS does not have a problem with people filing bankruptcy. When people do file bankruptcy, they actually get a stay from the IRS. I mean, the IRS will leave them alone, let the bankruptcy proceed, and then after the bankruptcy case is closed, then that's when the IRS comes back to work it out. So sometimes bankruptcy is a good way to deal with the IRS.
So it actually works in your favor.
Yeah, that's why it's kind of a loaded question, because it's more to your benefit to let them know.
Sure, but that's what it goes back to, the education process. They don't realize that it's a benefit. That's why you need to sit down one-on-one with Kevin, 303-955-7570. The last one, what if I cannot afford an attorney? Should I file just by myself? Is that a smart thing to do, Kevin?
Typically not. I mean, there's a lot of landmines that you need to be aware of, whether it's 7 or 13. I don't think anybody can get through a 13 without an attorney. A 7 you can, but you could lose something that you could easily keep. You know, like money in the bank, tax refunds, preferential transfers and payments. Most people think they cannot afford it, but after they sit down with us and we look at their financial situation and we decide we're going down the path of bankruptcy, we stop paying certain debts. And usually that money is enough that within 2 to 3 months, they have more than enough to pay their bankruptcy and get through the process.
Okay, the final question, it goes about those dreaded student loans that most everyone has. I'm 56 years old. Can I file bankruptcy on the interest of student loans I have from recent education?
Unfortunately not.
No,
there's nothing. The only thing you can do about student loans is you can discharge them under the theory of undue hardship. If you have a disability and you can no longer work, that's an easy one. Sometimes you can claim a financial hardship. That's where you have several $100,000 of student loans. You know, the viewer's 56, so they have a limited working career, and there's the probability that they may not be able to afford to pay them back. And so to even try to would be a financial undue hardship. It's a separate proceeding coupled with the bankruptcy. They're very complex, but sometimes that's the way to approach it. But just to wipe out student loans themselves or the interest, no.
Well, I certainly appreciate you coming on, Coco, and educating us and helping the viewers, too. Thank you for doing this.
Sure, my pleasure.
Okay, if you're considering bankruptcy, it's important to meet with an attorney when filing Chapter 7. Most people who try and file themselves are unaware of the complex laws that apply to the many situations involved with bankruptcy. That's why you should call Kevin Heupel if you think bankruptcy is your only option. It may or may not be the path to financial security. The number, 303-955-7570, or learn more about bankruptcy and Heupel law before you call at cobankruptcyhelp.com. Kevin will be back in a few weeks to answer more of your questions about bankruptcy, and we invite you to email us your questions about bankruptcy issues and options. If you are considering bankruptcy or already have filed but still have questions, email your question to coco@9news.com. We might even invite you to be on the show live to discuss your situation with Kevin. The Heupel Law Firm paid for this segment.